the revolutionary artwork of Carlos Sosa and our Midnight Riot Community Quilt event. My name is Johnny Willems, and I'm the gallery coordinator here at the Liberation Center's Fonseca-Du Bois Art Gallery, which is a project of our member organization, Arte Mexicano in Indiana. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our space, our liberated space for political, educational, cultural, and various other forms of programming. This physical space, as well as our website, the IndyLiberationCenter.com, serves as a hub connecting all causes of oppressed, marginalized, dispossessed, and exploited peoples here in Indianapolis. By uniting the diverse segments of our city, we have been able to unite with fellow members of our class worldwide. At each of our events and actions we host, just like these Fourth Friday events, we work to overcome the divisions imposed on us by the ruling class by working together, because only through unity can we win. We're stronger together, and in fact, since we've opened our Liberation Center, we have hosted over 150 events, from protests, marches, to press releases, art bills, and more. Every one of these events have been organized by volunteer labor, supported by donations from our community members. More importantly, each one of these events have helped to train a new generation of cultural, political fighters so we can together create the world and city that we deserve. We're excited for tonight's event, which is the 11th entry of our Fourth Friday series, Unleashing the Creativity of the Masses. The theme is inspired by Stephen Jay Gould, a revolutionary biologist, scientist, and historian. In this book, The Panda's Thumb, he wrote that, quote, "I am somehow less interested in the weight and convulsions of Einstein's brain than in the near certainty that people of equal talent have lived and died in cotton fields and sweatshops. No act of creation is the result of a single individual. All creation is collective. The problem with our system is that it deprives the masses of the ability to participate in that creation. At the Liberation Center, we work to provide what the system deprives us of." So, unleashing the creativity of the masses is not just a title, it is an act that we demonstrate not only every Fourth Friday, but at every single event we organize, whether or not it's artistic or cultural. Today we are very proud to host Carlos Sosa, whose work is a reflection of community building. It is a reflection of art that comes from the community and is an act of resistance in itself. As well, as featured today is a print workshop that we've been leading together with Midnight Riot, which as well seeks to bring accessible and revolutionary art to the masses and comes from the community. To maintain our political independence here at the Liberation Center, we also have to maintain our financial independence. We have seen how groups like the Ford Foundation have co-opted Black Power movements in the late 60s and continue to see how corporations, billionaires, and various state entities of the two major political parties restrict and determine the range of political organizations that can engage in. For that reason, we rely solely on donations from the community, and we actually kind of pay to volunteer here. For those of you who have paid the suggested donation at the door, we thank you. Please, we ask you to at least to make a one-time donation, fill in anything you can in the bucket, or to be able to join our sustainer program online at the IndyLiberationCenter.com. That's right. If you know of any other organization that's interested in reserving the space or using the resources and volunteer labor, please direct them our way. So, welcome to the Indianapolis Liberation Center. Welcome to our liberated space. And welcome to the Fourth Friday series. Thank you for coming, and thank you to Carlos Sosa and Midnight Riot for sharing your revolutionary artwork with us. I'd also like to invite Carlos Sosa to share a few words about his life, art, and history. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out in this lovely weather. You actually did much better than UPS, which is one of these areas, the spaces. Those are going to be some interesting posters, probably the most sarcastic statement. A few words. I am not a man of few words. I'm an instructor and an entertainer by heart. So I'll start with echoing what was said earlier about Einstein, looking for Einstein before. Einstein is famous for a quote that says, imagination is more important than knowledge. He strove to create new ways of looking at science and how it related, obviously the theory of relativity, to the world at large, but he had to imagine it. He had to seek it out through creativity. And I think that's important. I think that's when we look about liberation. I think freedom to think and to express yourself and to be creative is a very important part of liberation. It's liberating for me to create. Now I'm trained as a graphic designer. If you've been to a baseball game here, or taken the bus here, or worked out at NIFS, or been shopping at Circle Center, I did the logos for the Indians, the Indigos, and those entities. And so working with corporate entities like 3M in Minneapolis, were very restrictive. They're very interesting, very lucrative, but to call us the creative department was always an oxymoron to me. And so we strove to do better things. And many of us who I work with for, God, I'm in my 44th year in this career, to do other things. I'm in a blue jacket, but I'm in what I call retirement, as I try to reinstigate my art career that I started when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and just did things for the pure enjoyment. Now I'm from the Bronx, in New York, and sometimes enjoyment is sarcasm. Sometimes enjoyment is just kind of saying what's on your mind, not like certain individuals who enjoy just lying because that's on his mind, but because, bluntness and truth and saying what you mean is a sign of respect to those of us who partook in that way of communicating. So that's what I offered to you here with the art show tonight. I wanted to make a statement. I wanted to look at things a little sideways. I'm an educator, so I wanted to teach a little bit about what images might mean, whether it's the enye. The enye is that character that's in the Latin and Spanish alphabet that typically gets left out of things like, email addresses and other things because they weren't figured out. It was just when the World Wide Web came along, it was just done in an English-dominant world. And so I explain a little bit about what the enye means and how it means the people. But I classify myself as a New Yorkeño. There's an enye in there. My wife's last name is Castañeda. There's an enye in there. That's unique to us. And it says a lot about how our language works. And there's a beauty, fluidity in the language that doesn't really exist in other languages. And I think it's unfortunate that we don't express that. That's an example of the kinds of messages. I tried to spend some time this week writing a little bit about each piece to get a little deeper, to give you guys insight to where I was coming from. For example, the piece in the far right, what I did was I quoted a song. It's a lucha mask, Mexican wrestling. It's based on the Blue Demon, and it has a mirror behind it. Because I think many of us hide behind masks, and sometimes we have to. A lot of Latinos in growing up, we had masks that we had when we were outside the home. We spoke Spanish inside the home, English outside the home, ate rice and beans inside our mother's kitchen, and McDonald's outside. And so the mask has become kind of a representation of our lives, of our approach to, I don't know if we want to call it assimilation, integration, what have you, but it restricts us, and sometimes, and looking through it, so a lot of you are looking into the mirror, I want you guys to see things about yourself and to reflect. This is about reflection, always about thinking about whether or not some of these other concepts that I'll be presenting, whether or not they apply to you, and if they don't, how they apply to others and what they did to their lives, how they impacted their existence, both positively and negatively. And I try to express that with the piece that's an image of the dominoes resting on a table near a flag that's the U.S. flag, but in the colors of the Mexican flag. My Mexican connections are kind of confusing because I'm of Puerto Rican descent. And so, I think the beauty of the artwork from Oaxaca, for example, and of course the food, adds so much flavor to our society. I tell you an interesting fact, there's more salsa in the refrigerators of Americans, U.S. Americans, than there is ketchup. It's just what we enjoy because it's good, and it adds to our to the richness of our lives. Let's see what else we have here. We have there's a few images of the calavera. I started doing a lot of this artwork at the behest of Eduardo Luna. He does a celebration at the Idol George Museum, the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, and so I thought about doing some artwork. And so the symbol of the calavera, or the skull, sugar skull, represent our ancestors. Anybody saw Coco or the Book of Life, that explained it very well, where you don't look at a mask or a skull or a skeleton as scary. You look at it as if it was your abuelita, your grandmother, your great uncle, people who've come before you, and you don't want to exist in the third death. There are three deaths in Mexican culture. You die, you get buried, and then you're forgotten. And you don't want to be forgotten. And that's why the celebration exists. You dress like your grandmother to remember her every day of the day. You put on different shows, the parades. You're dressing like people in your past, so you never forget them. Many of you may have seen altars that are done for your dead relatives. That is so you do not forget them. And I think that's unfortunately one of the posters here quoted Jorge Santayana, whose famous quote is, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Learn from history." I think maybe these guys could do that a little bit. I mean, that's the statement I'm making here. It's interesting to see how sometimes when you get beyond something hideous like a Holocaust and you base everything moving forward on the survival and the success of your people, and then you effectively do what was done to you, it's not only an Israeli issue, it's an issue for lots of groups. And I think in this country we have so much of that, so much hypocrisy. I have a piece there that I call Pray, Pray inside there that really tries to address the hypocrisy of the evangelical crowd. Who's the guy in North Carolina now that they just found, he's adamant about no abortion, adamant about going to church, bringing the Bible in, and he's found to have been on a porn site, and doing whatever he did. It's like the hypocrisy of it all it's ubiquitous. It's a shame that it's so ubiquitous, but it's there. And so in my work, like even the second one here, the Argentine flag, that's a bandoneon. That's the instrument that you hear a lot when you hear tangos, dun 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 dun. Well, the tango was outlawed because it was so closely related to the Perons. Eva Perón, Evita, don't cry for me, Argentina. The Madonna song. I guess she sang it later. But it was outlawed, and it was banned. You couldn't play it. You couldn't even own these instruments in Argentina for decades. And so that art form, which is really about love, romance, and art, was really not allowed to exist until sometime in the late 80s, early 90s again. And so again, I present this as a protest, as an opportunity to learn. There's a piece in the other room that showcases the Indiana state flag as a papel picado. And it kind of, I call it the Los Hoosiers project. And so I did a flag, I have a series of those flags. That one in there was actually at the State House for about 2 years. And the one next to it was just put up for the Welcome Race fans for this year's event around the track, around the race. And so what I tried to do is talk about the speed and the advancement of the Indiana Latinos that you may or may not know about. And I'm doing a whole series of portraits of Latinos from all over the state who have made contributions in science, art, education, and they really made a significant difference. And many people don't even know who they are. I mean, theater in this town wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for Brian Fonseca, who this gallery is named after. He was a friend of mine. Matter of fact, he connected me with my wife. He put me on stage and she played my wife. And so life imitated art. And his thing was always to make sure, well, he had lots of goals, but he tried to do a show about Latinos every season. And I was in a few of them. And it was important to him to reflect what's going on in the community. And so he's going to be part of the portrait. Chris Gonzalez, who started the IYG as a suicide line. Okay, a lot of people don't know Latino started that. There were medical issues. There are teachers. The current sheriff of Monroe County is a Dominicano, and people don't know what to do with him because he's a black guy that speaks Spanish. And so it's a real interesting group that I'm trying to make the general community aware of, because there are important and significant contributions that we've made, and people need to know what they are. So as you look around, I'm going to be here for a while, obviously, so ask me some questions about some of the work. I tried to be a little poking. I wanted to anger a few people. You know who you are. And I wanted to just kind of raise things up for discussion. And I think that's where we learn most, when we start to talk about it, get curious about it, and learn more. So, any questions now? I'll play teacher like I usually do. Who has questions on chapter 16? None? Okay, well, anyway, enjoy the work. If you see anything you like and you're curious about it, just find me. I'm not going to be stepping in that far away. Thanks.
Organization that helped us give us the start, and thanks to him, because he's very connected to the with the old media. But it's still current. Like that old media is still current in our media. He was able, thanks to him, we were able to get into a large art institution, and thanks to him, we were able to start working towards creating more of a ecosystem of artists here in Indianapolis, Latino artists. So I remember when you started your show, it was 10 years ago or so, Amor?
Oh, that was 2002, the first one, and then 2012. That was the first shows for all Latino artists.
Yeah.
There was one in the Dean Johnson Gallery on Mass Avenue in 2002. And then the second one was in 2012, just a couple blocks away at the old Hispano Center.
Yeah, so in 2012 I met Carlos, so ever since he's been supporting to the things or craziness that we've been trying to plan. And I would say thanks to him we are where we are. So I would say, you mean a lot to us. And I think it would not be the same thing, like thanks to him we are here, as the Fonseca-Du Bois Gallery. Also, he designed the logo for the Fonseca-Du Bois Gallery. But yeah, he has really impacted a lot of Latino artists locally. So they may not say it, but he has done the work. So, but thank you, Carlos, for being here too. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the work that you do and your wife too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Patricia Castañeda. Yes.